What should you do early on in your PhD? These are going to be really unconventional, and everybody else is going to tell you something completely different. And hopefully, I'm going to give you something that you're going to take and it's going to change who you are. This is really aimed for those of you who want to go and do the research game and get into everything about science. The key thing is the number one thing, and it's the hardest to learn, and you're going to leave because you don't want to hear this. Practice self-love. Figure out how you can get that self-confidence inside where you can do things in of yourself and by yourself and do things that you think are just good for you. So this is maintaining boundaries in your life. This is doing things like having a weekend that is very healthy and happy kind of stuff to actually do, making sure that you get time off to spend with significant others, making sure that you do phone calls with people around you, making sure that you go for walks. All of these things are really insanely important. It's not important right at the get-go because this is what's going to happen. Everybody goes through this. I went through this, and everybody that I know goes through this the first couple of years. You're going to race, and you're wanting to be the number one because you have it in your mind that you will be the number one person in your particular field. And that is common. We all do that stuff. That is totally normal to do that. And then after some point, you realize, man, this is really hard to do this. And so, how do I deal with it? What do I manage? I'm going to run into people that they're not going to agree with what I'm actually going to say. And the process is very little to do with the scientific logic that you think in terms of generating knowledge. The process is actually thinking about how can you demonstrate to other people that you found some interesting findings that are legitimate and other people actually believe. And so you have to have this inner strength inside. You have to have that self-love that you can stand up and say, I am good with who I am. It's not going to be about the knowledge that you're going to generate. It's not going to be any of that stuff. It's the ability to turn off where people, they doubt you, they don't want to look at what you're actually doing, and you have to turn that off and get that inner strength where you feel that you are confident with who you are. This part of it, it is the hardest part for anybody to do within this particular career. And this is true with all careers, right? Like, this is not unique. It's just that in this career, we've got some weird things that you likely do not understand. Everything is completely transparent. Everybody knows what you're doing, and you're measured on everything all of the time. And there is this competitive play that happens, and you need to break free from that to do things that are explorative, to do things that you just find are interesting. The time right now, in terms of the things that you're interested in, people are likely not going to be interested in those things right now. You have to be interested in those. That's a challenging thing to think about. You often have to do things that very few people are interested in. And it has to be something that you resonate with, or else you're not going to stay with this thing a long time. That's going to be the biggest thing you'll ever learn, is to practice that inner strength where you say that I am good enough, I'm proud of who I am, and I can do this. I can get back up and I can do it again tomorrow, even though that I don't want to. And even though that I'm going to feel at any given moment that I can't do this, but I can get back up and I could do it again. The only way that I know how to do that is to practice very simple things. Getting some family and friends, doing this sort of basic things, making sure that you eat, make sure that you drink, make sure that you not the drink that you're thinking of, beer, but making sure that you're just doing basic healthy things, getting walks, those simple things, spending time with family and friends. Those are incredibly important. And if you don't have those that are at your fingertips, build them. Make sure that you find those folks that you feel comfortable around and that you think that I can do this thing. I think that there's often, and this is a really bad typification, this is the second thing to think about, is that there is, it's not a reflection of reality, but it's easy to sort of think about these. You got one side of the world that wants to view the world as competition, and they're viewing and vying to compete against you. And you got another side of the world that views the world as support and looking at ways that we can build things up. And those are sort of opposite polar ends of the spectrum, and they don't exist exactly like that, because people can be one or the same sometimes, and sometimes they're really supportive and sometimes they're really competitive at different times. But I want you to find those moments and those individuals, those groups where you find that support. You find those individuals that will be supportive and challenging and make you feel better. You want to be around those people. That is the challenging thing to often find, because I find, at least, and I think a lot of people find this, is that the competitive nature of the whole academic game makes you not want to be around other people, because you view them as a competitive threat. There's resources that they're stealing from you, all those kind of things that you're thinking. This is what's the thought process that's going to go in your head. I guarantee it. Everybody thinks like this. But this is where you take a step back and you say, how can I find that group of people where I feel comfortable? I can smile inside. I can just smile. I can feel good. And every day I can go into work and I can love who I am and what I'm doing. And if you don't have that group right now, if you're watching this, you can't find that group, leave comments below. Let other people look you up and find you. Put your name. It's not that scary, right? Make sure that other people can find you and you can find that group where you feel supported. So making sure that you have that self-love, that you are proud of who you are, is going to be so important as you go through this. It has nothing to do with the reading and the writing and all that kind of stuff. That's going to naturally happen, and people are going to want to get you to do those things. It's that self-love, and then finding that group where you feel comfortable and you just feel like you can be yourself. And the third thing, try to practice humility. It's a hard thing to do in our profession, but I'm going to encourage you to do that. What is humility? That is encouraging yourself not to do the sort of brainy stuff that you see all of the time. If you go on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, my kid is this, the stuff where people say that they're so good, it hurts other people. And it's a race to the bottom where people don't feel good about themselves. Practice being supportive, and people are going to find out that you are a decent, amazing human being eventually by practicing that humility. It does. It's such an important skill set that we forget about. And it's hard to train, but practicing that humility, really coming back to who I am. And those two things, those two prior things, are such important parts. The self-love, where you feel good about yourself, having that community where you just feel good all the time, no matter what. Somebody's going to be there for you and support you. That's hard to find. That's why number one is the most important. Number two is really important. And then practicing that humility that's in response to this, man, it changes who you are if you do this day in and day out. It's hard, but you can do it. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.